Welcome to the WAQ Show. I'm your host, TJ, and with me is...
Matt and Dan.
And today we're talking about some exclusive things of exclusivity. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
I think so.
I'll give the reins to you, Matt, to kick us off.
All right. So basically, I've had this idea kicking around in my head for a little while. And this will be formatted a little different than usual. We're basically just going to talk about this, and they're going to tell me how I'm dumb or a genius. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm whack. So my idea is that, like, exclusivity in merchandise is dumb, and it breaks capitalism, which is bad for our society if you live in, like, any Western society, basically. So I think this works easily and most understandably if you apply it to Apple. Basically, the idea is, and this is with all fucking companies that have proprietary whatever. So Apple makes their fucking Apple shit, and they make it work with their other Apple shit, and they all have their own special fucking cords and connections and file types and all that shit. And it breaks capitalism, because the point of capitalism is, you know, when America started and capitalism was a new baby idea, the point was anybody can do anything. You can, like, if you don't like the way fucking Timmy the chair maker is making his chairs, well, you can spend the next year learning how to make chairs and make chairs better than Timmy at a lower price. At a lower price, and put Timmy out of business because your products are better for cheaper. You can't do that anymore, because if you buy into the Apple ecosystem, you can't buy a fucking Apple product somewhere else that does the same thing that the Apple product does for less money. No, if you buy an iPhone, you're pretty much fucked if you don't have a Mac, if you don't have an iPad, if you don't use their cords and their stuff. Same goes for file types. Every fucking program has to have, like, there are 17 kinds of zip. There are 14 kinds of things that are basically PDFs. Like, why do programs that want to talk to each other not just export in raw code to a notepad file that can plug into another fucking program? Like, if it's not speaking the same code, fine, but usually that's not the case. Usually they're all speaking one of 4 codes that are the primary things that you use, but they export in these weird file types, so if you don't have their shit, you can't talk to programs in that ecosystem. And it makes it so, you know, fucking Timmy's now not a chair maker anymore. It's 2020. What are you doing, Timmy? He's a fucking tech guru, but he can't just make, you know, a better PDF reader because it'll only work with Adobe. It's like, that's basically the idea.
I mean,
it's like, I
get where you're coming from, but you say that about Apple, and don't get me wrong, I fucking hate Apple. Like, but you say you don't have any options other than Apple. There's nothing that'll do what, you know, an iPhone does or an iPad does.
No, my point is, if I buy an iPhone, I am now locked in to all Apple products. I had an iPhone for years. You can't just connect it to your computer and look at the files on it like a normal person. Like, if I plug in my Google phone to my computer, I can actually access my files. If I do that with an iPhone, I'm jumping through 16 extra hoops, and it's not going to work as well unless I'm using iTunes.
Yeah, correct. And that's a limitation of Apple, which is why it's frustrating that so many people like Apple, is because they're intentionally limiting themselves for this bullshit. But the fact remains, them being exclusive doesn't necessarily break capitalism, like you're saying. It simply limits user experience. And you as the user need to be aware of that if you choose to buy into the Apple racket.
I suppose.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle, because it is so annoying that they make you do that. Or, like, I like Google products and stuff, but they kind of do the same thing too.
As far as like the file type stuff and the coding stuff, I agree with that. It's frustrating that there's like 50 million different ones, but the reason for that isn't necessarily intentional, like exclusivity or proprietary nature. It's more, we are now in an era where we are dealing with artifacting and dregs of figuring out how to do what we're doing now. and it needs to be cleaned up eventually, basically. I don't think that one is intentional per se. It is really fucking shitty and annoying, but I don't think that's anyone specifically like Adobe cornering the market on PDF style files or anything. That's just, there's so many different iterations trying to figure out what works best, kind of.
I mean, I'm willing to agree with you, but I definitely think Adobe's file typing is malignant?
Malicious?
No. Malicious.
Yeah, no, I agree that there's definitely some out there that's straight, questionable. I'll agree with that. But, it's the sweeping blanket statements that it's like, well.
It's fair. It's fair. But, it's a lot funner to make a hot take sweeping statement than to go, all right, I think this, but I realize that this, and
That's
this
fair.
kind of don't fit in.
He doesn't want to have sanity behind it.
Yeah, no, I want to be a kooky, crazy, insane ideas.
But go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say, but as far as like exclusivity limiting capitalism, I definitely agree with that part. In particular, like all of these fucking streaming services is a great example of that.
Oh my god!
I need to pay $8.99 or $10.99 or whatever the fuck it is for Netflix if I want to watch Castlevania, but if I want to watch The Office, now I have to do the CNBC one, and then if I want to watch anything Disney, now I have to do the Disney one, and then Hulu's got shit, and it's like, look, I get that. I mean, that in a way though, that is capitalism, Yeah,
no, I honestly think that's good. It's just it's good for now because we used to pay like $60 for cable packages, and now you can kind of cherry pick the couple cable packages you want.
The problem is I want them all because they each have a specific show.
That's the hang up. Yeah.
And I only want it for so long.
Technically, it is capitalism because they are competing against each other to provide the same kind of service. The problem is their same kind of service does not include the same kind of product.
Yeah. No, they don't all have their own office that I can be like, well, that office is better.
To go back to your Timmy example, it's like, well, I can buy chairs from Timmy, but I run a bar, so I want stools from Jerry. But when I add the restaurant on, I don't want stools for my restaurant, so now I have to pay Timmy and Jerry because they're the same service but not the same product. And that's when it starts getting bullshit.
Yeah. They just, and no one has a good solution right now because they're different companies. You can't just be like, you guys need to pool together.
I mean,
and make a package. But
honestly, we'll probably come full circle with this shit, and all the cable companies will realize that the internet is where it's at, and they will all do like what Verve tried to do, but it didn't really work, where they bundle all these streaming services into one and let you cherry pick a percent of what you want from each.
Yeah, but then they're gonna be like, well, you said 15% of your picking should be Netflix, and we just took the bottom rated 15%. They're gonna like fuck you like that or something.
Yeah. No, of course.
Or it's gonna be ridiculously expensive. Because they're going to be like, well, you would pay this much if you bought them all. So
it's going to be one of those things where you definitely technically save money, but it's not worth it.
And then, well, yeah, because that'll still be your internet. It's going to be weird. We're going to hit a breaking point, though.
You got to like interpret it in, money per hour used, not, money per product available. Is the biggest problem. That's a huge issue right now with the economy and people, is like it's that whole shtick of, well, if I buy two, it's $1 off the price of two. Yeah, but you only fucking need one. So you're not saving money.
Yeah.
That's the rampant misconception right now.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite joke to make. Whenever anybody says, well, they're on sale, and I'm like, yeah, because you'd be losing money if you didn't buy 4 of them right now.
I fall into those traps quite a few times.
No, my mom was horrible at that shit, and it is built me to be so much better.
Whenever I run into stuff like that, the first question I ask myself is is this a non-time sensitive thing that I will eventually use all of? And will I?
Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
And somewhere down the line, will I have purchased, X amount over time that I could just bulk purchase now and actually save money? Like that's the question people should ask themselves.
That's where I get away with it because I go through stuff fast, so it doesn't hinder me as much.
When you're going down the aisle and they actually finally fucking have paper towels at the grocery store, and you go, well, it's 2 for $4 or 1 for $2.50. I could save 50 cents to $1 if I buy the 2 now, and eventually I'm going to use those paper towels. That's not true when you're walking down the movie aisle and it's 3 movies, with a discount versus buying 2 movies that you really want to see. Like, you're probably only going to watch those movies once, maybe twice in your life. Getting that discount now is not going to be a thing, especially when you're settling on, Dwayne Johnson's Rampage like we talked about last time.
Yeah, no.
Or just waiting for it to hit a stream service that you've purchased.
But I don't know. To jump back to the root presentation of exclusivity damaging capitalism, I don't think that's the case specifically because of the way capitalism is designed. However, it is definitely not consumer friendly.
No.
Which
I agree with
in
that
turn reduces the likelihood of consumers to spend money in the economy, which then damages capitalism. I think it damages capitalism through secondary and tertiary effects. It is not directly opposed to it. Does that kind of make sense?
Fair. Yeah.
I don't know if this falls under exclusivity per se, but it's something that I hate that is going on more and more with software products. But like Adobe is now Adobe CC, which I think stands for Creative Cloud.
Yeah, it sure does, and I completely know what you mean.
The pay monthly
for my God.
Instead of having an option
I
to
really
just
want to
buy
own
it.
fucking Photoshop. I'd love to own any version of Photoshop, but if you want to do it legally now, you have to pay like $400 a year to own your timeshare of Photoshop.
Dude, that's actually it's super difficult for me to agree with you guys because I do, and I fucking hate that Microsoft does that now and all of these other things, and the additional part of that is the piecemealing. Like, I just want the Adobe suite one-time purchase permanently like it used to be, or the Microsoft suite or whatever. But now it's like I have to pay, $20 for Adobe stock and $25 for Adobe Premiere a month and, this and that and the other to get everything together. And it's super frustrating because like we're somewhere between the boomer and the zoomer where we remember, the convenient all-in-one one-time package and the monthly payment plan that all the zoomers are only familiar with. We've seen both.
And when you want to upgrade, you can do it because they come out with the new versions. You don't have to buy each new version. You can be like, okay, I'm going to get every other for like professionals within the business.
A benefit of
you can do every other new version and stuff like that. But like, and the other problem with this, and my biggest issue, which isn't so much the money, it's ridiculous how much they charge and how much they force upon you, but you can't not update. So then my computer becomes obsolete to the programs at a certain point in time, and that's annoying because now I have to buy a new computer to keep up with the software, and it's a vicious cycle with the cloud.
I never even fucking thought about that.
Yeah, it's now they're feeding into each other. The software advances needing better hardware, and then as the hardware advances, you want to fully utilize its power, so you get better software until it bounces back and forth like that. But go ahead.
I was saying, and it's not necessities all the time with those programs. Like you can get away with the older stuff. It just
most certainly.
Yeah. What were you gonna say about it though, Dan?
I was just going to say, but my apprehension to agreeing with the vehement distaste for this is it's actually brilliant from a software designer's perspective and a company's perspective that makes that their business, because, and this kind of goes into a conversation we've had multiple times, Matt, of when you make a piece of software and you go to sell it, once someone buys that software, great example is a video game, that is the one source of income that company gets from that huge piece of software. Then they are no longer making money on that software, but they are fully expected to support said software.
Yeah, and I'm willing to accept that to a certain point, but realistically, at least for Adobe and for some softwares, like TJ was saying, the software this does not work for video games, but for software at least, software of the Adobe
production
Photoshop variety.
Type.
Realistically, it should keep getting better, and it being better should be why I want to buy it again, not I have to subscribe.
Because something I do that is relevant is dependent on this software as a service. And that right there, that phrase right there, that's where all of this fucking stems from. SaaS, software as a service.
Yeah. And the difference between the Microsoft Office versus Adobe is, I'll do Adobe first. Adobe has no competitors that I really know about. They have competitors within certain software. So instead of Audition, there's I can't think of what it's called, but there's another. No, that's Adobe too. There's Pro Tools. There's Pro Tools. So those are two audio prominent things. For video, there's Premiere versus Final Cut. So there's two different options you can do. For Photoshop, InDesign, Dreamweaver,
Illustrator, After Effects.
That's about it. So there's no counter to go get those programs.
I mean, that's not entirely true. If you want to go fucking Linux, for Photoshop there's GIMP. If you want to for Premiere, you could also do
Premiere's Final Cut. But I mean of equivalent software.
I've heard that GIMP is just as good as Photoshop. It's just you have to be able to support Linux, and it takes.
I have a PC.
There's a bigger barrier to entry. There's all the buttons are in different places and it works funky, but it can do all the things Photoshop can do.
My example for Microsoft though, the Office, because is it subscribed now?
Yeah,
to Office
365.
It is, isn't it?
I think Microsoft does have. You can still purchase licenses one time for their software, but it is ridiculously expensive for bundles of computers. It's for office buildings that need a bunch of them kind of thing, instead of the layman working from home, or the guy who needs to do word processing at home for some reason.
I was say the thing I was gonna say was Google Docs.
True.
And their system
at least
is becoming more prominent.
It's
and that's free.
Yeah, it's at least it's a free version. Although technically there's Lunapic is the free baby version for Photoshop.
Yeah, I use that a lot because I'm not trying to do complex stuff. But you can't make a high quality advertisement or a modeling headshot with Lunapic is the problem.
Yeah, you can't even change skin tones and
I mean, if you're going from
actually zoom
white
in and
to
get
purple, you can, but you can't do the good stuff.
You can't do it satisfyingly though. It's gonna be a weird bright purple.
But before we get too far from it, I just wanted to bring up I had mentioned software as a service, and I will caveat this with this does not apply to everything, but it applies to a majority of things. My fucking problem with the concept of software as a service is there's no fucking service for 90% of them. You're not providing me a service.
Yeah.
You're giving me access to your software. There's a great example of a software that does have service. Right here where I live in Utah, there's a company called Rain Focus. I look into them a lot. I've applied to jobs there before. I have a friend who works there. This is not a paid advertisement or anything. They're an event management company who made a custom proprietary piece of software that is basically a suite for managing events like conventions. And they have support teams that will go to the event, set the software up, and run it for you. That is software as a service. Me paying Microsoft $25 a month for their word processing suite and them not doing fucking jack or shit for me and having hour-long wait times on support, that is not fucking software as a service. That is software that you're making me pay repeatedly for. There is no service in that.
Yeah. I completely agree.
If you're going to do something with a software as a service archetype and pay structure, where's my service? I'm paying you for service and you're not giving it to me. It's super fucking annoying. It's whack even.
No, you're right.
No, we're whack.
At least that's what Microsoft would call us.
Yeah.
The one thing I give Adobe and why I use all the products, well, I have education price, so that helps a little bit and all that, but they talk to each other. The softwares talk to each other, which is nice. Dude. Like how we were saying with like the Apple stuff.
I know we
so
were like
that is
shitting
helpful
on Apple and these companies that have actually done really good integration between their apps, but I will say I appreciate that. Like, I think it's super cool how an Apple iPhone, iPad, and Mac can all talk to each other, and you can you're like on the verge of doing the Tony Stark thing where I can flick something from my iPad to the screen of my Mac. Like, I feel like we're almost there with that.
I mean, yeah, at the beginning, like, you know, back in the Steve Jobs days, Apple's thing was like, we're going to make the best version of everything and we're going to make them all work together perfectly and it's going to be awesome. Then Steve Jobs died and now Apple just kind of slowly updates their shit, and like maybe at some points iPhone is the best, but then iPad isn't the best. So that's my problem. My problem is I cannot own the best computer, the best tablet, and the best phone and have them all talk to each other seamlessly, because half the fucking time they're all from different companies and all those companies want you to own their ecosystem shit only.
Yeah.
I wish I could afford the Mac that I want. This computer's ridiculously expensive.
The standalone's $1,000, right?
Yeah. I know the base model for the iMac I was looking for when I needed a new computer was $5,000.
Jesus.
And the one I wanted was somewhere around 11 or 12.
Why? Fucking why? Oh my god.
Just the processing power for editing. More so for videos.
Not
and stuff
why
like
did
that.
you want it? Why is it that price?
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, it's so irritating too, because like I don't know, we're this is gonna delve into why we do and don't like capitalism eventually if we keep going, but like
I was gonna say, and we're a little past time too.
Maybe
but we can have an extended episode.
We can save that for
fine.
a new episode though. We can talk about like, you know, the fact that computers are now edging on almost required in our country to get stuff done. Much like glasses are required for people to get stuff done, and you still have to pay out the ass for both of them, even though they're essentially required equipment or getting there.
Right.
But we'll
so something to look forward to for our listeners.
Yeah, we should save that for another time, because that's going to be another one.
Woo. That was a good topic. Thanks to Matt for bringing it in. And thank you to our listeners for once again listening. That was the WAQ Show. I'm your host, TJ.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dan. And remember, we are not qualified.
Definitely not qualified.
Not at all. That's the WAQ Show. Bye-bye.